Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Very interesting actually article where the Russians say that they actually destroyed the Ukrainian military infrastructure and they demilitarized them close to zero. That means what? The Ukrainians don't have bullets and anything anymore? It seems like, according to the Russians, reported by the American Reuters. You can trust Reuters. Okay, like a money changer. You can trust that guy or that person. This article comes from Reuters from December 23rd, 2022. This is the title. Kremlin says Russia has made significant progress towards demilitarizing Ukraine. The Kremlin said on Friday that Russia has made significant progress towards demilitarizing, quote-unquote, Ukraine, one of the goals President Vladimir Putin declared when he launched his war against Kiev 10 months ago. Weasels. I'm talking about the guy who wrote this article. The person, my bad. And we don't know it. Anyway, so Kremlin spokesman, good job Reuters, Dmitry Peskov, offered the assessment of Russia's military progress when asked during a briefing about comments by Putin, who on Thursday said that Ukraine's defense potential was close to zero. So Putin said on Thursday that Ukraine's defense potential was close to zero. Well, that is I think a very, very bold claim, but they know best, right? Okay, so I'm quoting Mr. Peskov's answer. It can be stated that there is a significant progress towards demilitarization, Peskov replied. Ukraine's own defense potential, its military-industrial complex, has been badly disrupted by Russian missile strikes. But the West has poured tens of billions of dollars worth of weapons into Ukraine, and U.S. President Joe Biden this week promised a U.S. Patriot air defense system and pledged continued support. Putin dismissed the Patriot system as, and I'm quoting, quite old, and said Russia would adapt to it. After suffering a series of defeats in what Moscow calls its special military operation, Russia is looking for a battlefield victory in eastern Ukraine, where its forces have been trying to capture the small city of Bakhmut for months. These are weasels too. Who's not, right? Now they're talking about the series of defeats. Okay, it's like, all right, we play soccer. I scored 10 goals. You scored 3. Who's winning? It's still 10-2 or 3, whatever how many you scored. So again, yeah, defeats. Yeah, when they had that, when they retreated, when they had the counteroffensive, the Ukrainians I'm talking about having the counteroffensive, the Russians went over. That's true. That's definitely true. But from 27% of the territory the Russians had when they invaded unprovoked, now they have about 18%. So they lost a third, according to these guys, which I don't think so. Another article, because if you look at the map, I don't think they lost a third. Okay, if you take Crimea as well into consideration and whatever they have, but hey, they know best. Just saying. So it's still 10-3. I scored 10 goals. You scored 3. So who's winning so far? It doesn't seem like you're scoring. You scored yesterday. You scored a while ago. So that means I kind of blocked your offensive. Anyway, let's move on here. But how these guys are just... And then they say the small city of Bakhmut. Why did they say that? Because I just covered an article a minute ago before this one talking about Bakhmut. And then they said, oh, Bakhmut, if Zelensky said, if Bakhmut falls, the Russians can do this, can do that, can do that. 3 days ago, they said, Bakhmut, unimportant. We don't know why the Russians would want Bakhmut. What would they do with it? Stick it in their asses? And they what? They advance like 2 meters a day, 2 meters, 2 yards a day. Is that what it is? And now, and then it was an article where they were talking about the Institute of Study of War at DC think tank, and they were saying, well, the Russian offensive and advancement in Bakhmut decreased. Oh, so they were in a big offensive. You find out shit like this just by reading other people talk about the same thing, but it's unbelievable. Anyway, the Russians are advancing in Bakhmut, and that's not a small thing because these guys are fighting for Bakhmut like crazy. So if you have something that you don't really care, you know what I mean? Why would you defend that? Well, because it's Ukrainian territory, so it has a significance anyway. And believe me, Russians are not that idiots, and oh, we're gonna just attack Bakhmut because it sounds good, the name. So, Biden, who has said he's been ready to talk to Putin, oh yeah, that's bullshit. If the Russian leader was serious about finding a way to end the war, has spoken of the difficulty that Moscow may face finding what he described as face-saving off-ramp to end the conflict. Yeah. Peskov said Russia had no knowledge of a Ukrainian peace plan that the Wall Street Journal reported Kiev was preparing to put forward in February. I think he's just buying time, and I think the Russians will not fall for that again when they fell for it in 2014, 2015 with the Minsk agreements. That's what Ukrainians and their sponsors were doing, buying time so they can arm them. According to two very important people. One, it was Poroshenko, whatever his name is, what was his name? Poroshenko, whatever his name is, the president of Ukraine before this weasel, the one right after the coup. And then from Angela Merkel, from Germany, the former German chancellor, she said the same thing. We signed those agreements just to buy time, so we can the Russians. Great job, good job, weasels. Now do you think the Russians are going to believe you with, yeah, we're going to wait until Zelensky bring his peace plan? You just want to postpone shit. And the Ukrainians saying, no, we should keep fighting because if we stop fighting, the Russians will be able to regroup. The Russians are using one finger to fight the West. Now they use three. Why? Use three because the one, it was not enough when they realized, wait a minute, we're not finding Ukraine here. We find all these guys who jumped in the frenzy, the guys being, the Americans, the British, all these other weasels that decided to show their virtue. And then say, okay, let's bring some more. So then now there are three. And if this doesn't work out, they can bring two more. And then can make a feast. And they can maybe, I don't know, bring this one, stick it in their asses and, employ the elbow. So anyway, it's a lot of BS. But hey, as Putin said, the war is not over, whatever he said about 2 months ago. We will see. When the Ukrainians had a counteroffensive and everybody was like jerking off on ecstasy and so on. He said, well, the war is not over. We'll see at the end who's winning or something like this. And I think that is like a football game. Yeah, okay, now you're leading, or you scored three goals, and I'm still 10-3, and we still have about, I don't know, 30 minutes to play. We'll see, all right, when the whistle, then we find out. So, they say they destroyed the Ukrainian, they demilitarized them almost close to zero. So everything they got, the Ukrainians, according to this guys, comes from the West because the Ukrainians are gone. With their I don't think so, but hey, they know best. Definitely they decreased Ukrainians' ability as manpower and equipment. There's no doubt about it. And remember, Americans, and American mostly, they pump weapons to sustain the fight over there. But I don't think they will be able to, they being the Americans with the weasels, be able to continue like this unless they change this economy right here on or they change it into a war economy or something, or they say, okay, now we need more money. They just put what, $850 billion or so for the budget, Pentagon budget, and that's just the one that they tell us about. But there's some other perks that are just related that make that even bigger. But hey, what do you want? We know who's in charge, and that's definitely not those guys who show off in front of our television sets and or whatever screens and tell us, no, you're just the guys with the decision are somewhere else dressed in different clothes. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.